Let's go live. Morning update. Morning update. Good morning. Welcome back to the Weather Center, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me on this Friday morning. Happy Friday, as a matter of fact. We're rolling into another weekend, and it is going to be a busy weekend down here in the South and the Southeast. Let's hope, Lord willing, we do not have to deal with any lag or latency issues today. I've reset all of my internet equipment. I've checked all the connections and whatnot. Let's see what happens. Everything looks good as it stands right now. We have excellent connection. Everything is up and running. We have a lot to talk about. There's actually some pretty big up-and-comings according to Storm Prediction Center and what we're seeing on our models. And I also want to emphasize that we need to stop the hype train because I'm seeing it everywhere. The hype train is just getting worse and worse, and now that apparently the Weather Channel itself has designated this current storm that we're facing over the weekend into the beginning parts of next week, not our main whopper or the big tamale, not that one. They've actually designated it as Winter Storm Ember. And my question is, where did they get that from? And it seems like we jumped ABCD, and now we're into Ember. For my Danny Phantom fans out there who used to watch Danny Phantom when it was on Nickelodeon, Ember, do you remember? I used to like that song. But anyways, lots to discuss. We're going to look at all the SPC forecasts right now because this is what also stands out to me right now, this thunderstorm outlook. Take a look at this, what they have down here right along the Gulf Coast of Louisiana. And the reason I bring this up is not necessarily because does this indicate that we're going to have really bad severe weather, but it already goes to show that wherever we're tapping into our dynamics from the environment out of the north and out of the south, with this weaker system, we already have the dynamics in place to sustain some pretty significant thunderstorm activity right along the coastline, which could mean, a lot in terms of what ends up shaking out with this next system. Let's go ahead and say good morning to everybody. We got Isaac in the chat, Super Charas, Mick and Marley, Kevin. Who else? Sharon, welcome in. Weather is going a little nuts right now, that's for sure. But it's also making a lot of the internet go nuts as well, and it's pretty sad. I mean, it's not sad. It's all in good fun. We're all just enjoying and all along for the ride. But at the same time, we got to slow down a little bit. I'm seeing historic this and historic that, and I can guarantee you that this ain't going to be written in the history books. That's for sure. Just like they have their own tornado severity index. I guess that makes sense. I know the Toricon is their own internal product. I didn't know they had their own winter storm naming system. That's kind of neat, I guess. But yeah, we have Winter Storm Ember is this first one. And I'm still seeing a lot of folks out there advertising foot upon foot upon foot upon snow. And if I'm being really honest with you, and I took the time, it took a little bit, it was tedious maneuvering the different websites, but it took a little bit of time to go way back to when this first started to populate on a lot of our charts, and I examined whether or not we've seen an uptick or a downward trend in our snow potential, our snowfall, our snow rates, etc. And it actually has been very slowly but surely, we've been slowly trending down for the snow potential. Even with this first system, the first system definitely seemed like there was going to be more snow over the northeast, right in through this corridor here, northern Appalachians, headed up towards the southwest periphery, the southern tip of Maine. It looked like we could get upwards of a foot, maybe just a little over of a foot, a little greater than a foot of snow up there. But now it's calming down a little bit. It's calming down. And yes, Super Charas, that's exactly why on TikTok, on Instagram, on everything, I'm pumping out severe weather updates first. Severe weather updates first, and then we'll get into the snowfall. We already know the snow is going to be there. We have multiple systems up there that are producing snow. The snow is going to be up there one way or another. It's the severe weather threat that we really ought to start highlighting. The few to strong tornado threat that SPC is talking about in their discussions. I was looking at that closely, and as you guys could see, I'm a little, curious, but I'm also impressed that they went as gung-ho as bringing it up to North Carolina, because if you guys were in the live stream yesterday, I told you, and there you have it right here, I told you they were going to probably highlight eastern South Carolina and the southern portion of South Carolina. I'm very interested to know what their thinking is as far as going into North Carolina. I guess it does make sense, though, looking at our advection charts and exactly how much warm air this system is going to be pulling in, and what they're probably thinking is as it continues to deepen, it's going to get even stronger. And I don't mean the system itself. Obviously, if the system deepens, it's going to get stronger, guys. You know that. But what I'm saying is our warm sector and our warm channel, our warm conveyor, as Dr. Reed Timmer likes to describe it, is going to be a little bit stronger. And I even put out on my TikTok earlier this morning that it's really impressive where we're actually drawing the instability from this system. For those of you joining, and now that hopefully we're not, it doesn't seem like we're experiencing any latency, which is good. We'll go ahead and start looking back a little bit more. So this is what I'm talking about. This is extremely impressive. If you look, this is the start of the main event right in through here. And this is our first system, you know, very compact, very small. I don't really think we're going to see too much widespread severe coverage. It does seem like our models suggest there could be a little bit more instability out there. And what's good about the fact that we're doing this in the morning is we can actually look at some of our observed soundings out of that area, which in fact, while this is all loading up and we have folks still joining us, I'll go ahead and pull up the upper air soundings, the Rawinson data off of COD Meteorology. We'll go upper air maps, continental U.S. That's not going to help us very much. Where are my upper air soundings? I know that they're on here somewhere. There we go. Duh, they're staring you right in the face, David. All right, here we go. So, see, this right here, they've already had the front come through. Front has already come through right down here in the very bottom of this QT. That's a frontal inversion. Notice how we are colder at the surface than we are with the air above it. We have a stable lapse rate. This severe weather threat has come and gone. This is 12 Zulu. So a couple hours ago, they had frontal passage. And yeah, there's not going to be any kind of severe weather out there. Let's go just a little further downstream. Let me go back. Let's go down to, we'll go to Biloxi, where I was stationed for a little while. They're actually, okay, so we're pretty stable out there looking at these soundings. There's subsidence in the mid-levels, right above 900 millibars, right about 950. We have subsidence and dry air, and then we have another frontal inversion down to the south. So that's actually going to cap off our severe weather. Let me go to the actual observed sounding out near Pensacola, if this loads up. And it's not loading up. Not loading up. Maybe they haven't sent the balloon up yet. We'll go to the Panhandle. We're actually, you know, we might have to give it a little time. We might have to give it some time and see if we break these caps, because there's definitely a big old cap out there. Yep. None of these soundings look unstable. None of these soundings look dangerous for severe weather. Nope, that's saturated, but still stable. Still stable. Yep. So no real good examples of unstable conditions out there. But anyways, guys, let's see, who else we got in the chat? Ethan, I said good morning to you. Maya, thank you for joining. Some people brought up January 2017 for the Tampa area when we got that severe upgrade that's been brought up a lot for Tuesday's storm and, of course, mostly snow. Yeah, they've been talking a lot about snow, and it's kind of a bummer because every time I open up my YouTube, I bet you 10 to 1 we'll do it on the live stream. I'm going to open up my YouTube and see what kind of new recommendation we have out this morning. It's going to be northeast. Let's see. Open it up. Yep, there it is. Snowstorms for the northeast. Too many storm threats to go over. I actually follow that channel, though. Not a bad source. Nomad Cat 4, welcome in. Penn Unions, I think is how you say the name. How much expansion would Florida get in this storm? We're going to talk about that here a little bit. It's only 9:38. I still have about a little under an hour before I got to clock into work. So we're going to have a good conversation here. Kevin, welcome in. They are jealous it doesn't snow in Florida. Some people are. Cold morning here in Florida. It was cold. It was actually in the upper 40s in Haines City where I live, so definitely a cool start to the day. April Brooks, welcome in. Judy, good morning. Aaron, are we going to get a high wind warning for Ohio? Yes, you are, definitely. I think you asked that yesterday, as a matter of fact. Definitely a high wind threat. So if I had to rack and stack without looking at anything just yet, if I had to rack and stack the problems that we're going to deal with this system, at least down in the south as it transitions and strengthens headed towards the Great Lakes, the Midwest, first and foremost, winds. Take everything else out of the equation. This is going to be a big wind event, a huge wind event. If you guys remember yesterday, I had pulled up that pressure chart. We'll go back to the GFS real quick. We'll go lower dynamics, and we'll go the MSLP anomaly. Look at that. All that blue shading is going to be where our pressure anomaly is located, and essentially, to break it down for you, that means that the influence, the wind flow, the pressure gradient, which is driving the winds that we can feel down at ground level, is going to be all the way up towards James Bay in Canada and all the way down through the Gulf of Mexico and into the Florida Keys, moving into the Northeast. That is the entire area of influence, the AOI, with this cyclone. So a massive storm, and the GFS is slowly but surely trending on the stronger side. The Euro, believe it or not, was the one who wanted to be a little bit more rigorous with how much this system developed. In fact, if I switch it over, we'll probably be able to see that at 0Z, because I think this 0Z iteration has it really bombing out. Yeah, look at that. 968, 966, 964, 966. So it looks like the Euro, wants to bottom it out at 964 millibars. And just look at how, I mean, I know this is a mean sea level pressure chart, but look at how much cold air advection is just rushing. I'm talking like full-blown sprinting off the East Coast. And again, once more, you can draw these fronts. If you have some synoptic analysis experience, you can draw these fronts standing a mile back from your chair, your desk, and not miss it. If you miss drawing these fronts on a surface chart, you should just quit and go do something else. Looks like we have another little weak low pressure moving over the northern plains up and through here that could reinforce a little bit of the cold air that's coming south. And then another low pressure moving over the Great Basin, Intermountain West, and the Central Rockies. Another high pressure coming in. That's probably the high that's driving a lot of our cold air. You can see just how strong it is on the upper left portion of this chart. And so yeah, winds number one. Winds for certain, like everywhere. This is definitely going to be a moderate and greater threat for overall non-convective and possibly convective winds down here in the south. 35 knots, if not greater, closer you get to the storm, especially if it does bomb out the way that it is. This is bombogenesis, folks. If we're going from 1,000 to 995 millibar low, and then within 24-ish hours we're going down 30-some-odd millibars, that's comparable to rapid intensification with some of our tropical cyclones. And I know that's not the case here, obviously, but you get the picture. 964, if you need a reference to compare these kind of millibar centers to, that would be approaching major hurricane strength. Let's just put it that way. I know it's a totally different entity, totally different dynamics. Don't get that misconstrued. Don't get it confused. But, you know, if you wanted to just look at pressure, this is approaching technically what we would see in the Atlantic as approaching Category 2, pushing towards major hurricane strength. We are, yes. Sempert's Travels. We are going to see Twilight Firefly. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Milagros, good morning. Thank you for coming in. PM, I didn't notice you. Thank you very much for joining, Mick and Marley. Yes, we're going to get rain here, and it's kind of a bummer because not only did my Mitsubishi sustain a direct hit while I was driving around yesterday, I guess there was a rock in the road, and bing! Messed up my front splitter. That's another $300+ out the window. But I have a car show, Elite Tuner, up near the Desertland, Orlando area. That's where the venue is. And I was going to go to that, but to tell you the truth, I don't know if I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm going to go because of that frontal system that's going to be pushing through here. I'd rather not go driving in the rain, especially in that car. But all right, let's get back to 850. So this is why, even on my TikTok, I've been telling folks, we might want to pay just a little more attention to this. And I even said it just like that, you know, just a little bit. And I understand it's not a hurricane. I understand we're not going to see tornadoes every 10 feet from each other. And I know that we're not going to see hurricane force winds across the spectrum. Like, don't get me wrong. We're probably going to see hurricane force winds closer to you get to the storm. But, you know, it's not going to be a widespread severe weather event for everybody from Texas all the way up to Maine. You know what I mean? But if you look at this, notice how we have an acceleration in our 850 millibar flow through the Caribbean. Through the Caribbean. That is our, let me change the color so you guys can see it a little bit better. I'll use a yellow color. This here is our actual warm conveyor with this system. That's how far of a reach this low cyclone could possibly have. So when I mention air mass and warm versus cold sector and a conflict area or a collision course, that's what I'm talking about. And if you look up to the north, this system is also pulling in air from the northern Canadian territories. So right here, where you see that sudden drop-off in our purple-red shadings to more of an orange, maybe a greenish color, that is a very powerful upper front. Like, we're talking, you know, dare I say it, I hate using this kind of terminology, but that is kind of an extreme difference between our temperature gradient. And that's why I have the thickness lines here pulled up as well on weathermodels.com so you guys can see it, and look at that. Like, just to give you a perspective, here's our 570 thickness line, the delineation or the usual low-level marker for where our subtropical air is. Here is the 540 line, our freezing line, and then here's the 528 line where our true polar air is. And that's a lot of temperature advection. I used the term boxology in my previous video, my actual bona fide video, not a live stream. We used to use, and we used to make fun of it because it sounds funny. It was an internal joke amongst us Air Force weather forecasters, but we use the term boxology. And let me see if I can zoom this chart in so you guys can get a better idea of what I mean by boxology. Let me go down to the southeast. And I'll try to explain it to the best of my ability so I don't lose you guys. All right, here we go. Excellent example. So you see, have our isobars running through here like so. I'll kind of draw this. It's going to be very crude. I apologize. I'm not actually tracing the lines. But you see how we have our isobars running more so west-southwest towards the southeast, and then we have all these thickness lines doing this, like so. That right there is our boxology. That's kind of like our little rule of thumb to determine how much of an air mass change, how much of a push of cold air we're getting, how much, as we call it, advection is. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 5 different boxes in one row. Probably more than that because this is a very crude drawing. I'll mark them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 different boxes for our boxology. So that is a lot of cold air punching through because we have such a very tight pressure gradient. So again, that momentum, that density of the air mass itself is going to be just rushing. So this already in of itself, strong wind threat. This is easily 35 plus knots of wind at the surface sustained because you got to take into account that cold, dry air is much denser than warm air. As we know, it's a basic principle of meteorology. That's like, for instance, if I were to punch you, you're only going to feel so much. Like, I love to box and all that, but I'm not a professional boxer. Whereas if Mike Tyson at 18 years old punches you, he's going to have a lot more power. He's probably going to knock you out. And that's kind of the difference here. It's a comparison between, you know, apples to oranges. Same thing on the right-hand side or on the eastern side of this system. Our boxology is not as impressive, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So that's a lot of good warm air advection. So here is your area of greatest temperature discontinuity, which is why we should be paying attention to straight line winds, a squall-like feature, if not a full-fledged squall line with, what is it called? I'm trying to think of the terminology. We could possibly see some bow echoes on the front edge of this. We could possibly see some... I'm trying to think of what the term is. It's right there on the tip of my tongue. There's something that typically happens with squall lines and frontal boundaries where you get a sudden acceleration for certain very small-scale pieces of that front, and they could become tornadic like this very quickly. I'm trying to remember what they're called. It's such a bummer. But anyways, yeah, we got to watch that closely. This is going to be the issue for sure. I got to go. Busy day ahead of me. Ethan, have a great rest of your day. This is going to be a big change. This is definitely going to be a big change. So we got to watch this closely. I mean, just looking at this chart right here, this is definite severe weather. You could technically call it a derecho, but that's a totally separate feature, not usually associated with frontal lines. That's where you get the rushing of the winds, and I don't think bow echo is it. That's going to bother me. I'll have to look that up after this live stream. And then here we have our surface winds, and look at how wide of a wind field we're going to have with this system. So these are in knots. You can see on the northern periphery of it, we're already approaching 30 knots, and then as you go through the south, widespread corridor of 40 knots or greater all through this general area. And that's a big region. I know it doesn't seem like much if you're looking at it from this scale, from the United States, the lower 48, and it looks like another downsloping event for the northern Rockies out in through here. Got some good lee side winds coming off the mountains there, but that's a big wind event. And I even went ahead and pulled up the waves for you guys, even though we can't see too far out. If you look, wave heights are going to be an issue, possible coastal flooding as that warm sector really gets going because of the fact we're going to have such a vigorous discontinuity in our temperatures and our pressures. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get some coastal beach erosion along the Gulf Coast, western portions of Florida. You might see some flooding in the Tampa-St. Pete area because of the favorability of getting that southwesterly component in the waves and the swells. I believe there's been mention of a new moon getting ready to move in, so that's also, well, not literally move in, excuse me, but cycle through. Yes, we're getting a new moon. We're going to replace the old one. We got tired of it. But going into the snowfall, if you guys look, a lot less snow forecasted by both of our models. It looks like a rain-snow mix as you get to the west and southwest side of it, and a lot more rainfall, which is why I wish a lot of these other weather sources with a lot bigger of a following than I do have would start emphasizing flood risk. We got to talk flooding first and then get into the snow. Because truthfully, with this first system, it looks like our snow chances have backed off a little bit as well. If I rewind this in time, look at that. Very, very small. It's a very compact area of snowfall with it now. And yes, we do have some lake effect and some wraparound stuff being supported by this Alberta Clipper I told you guys about yesterday. But in reality, we've gone from this to more or less kind of this. So it's still more of a nor'easter system with that northwesterly wind flow moving into the coastline, but smaller scale snow event. Could we see blizzard conditions? Yes, but definitely a little bit on the lower end for snowfall. It's trended down, and it actually looks like our freezing rain threat has trended down for the northeast as well. We still have some cold air dammed up against the lee side of the Appalachians and North Carolina, Virginia, moving in towards parts of Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware, I believe that is. I got to brush up on my northeast geography. And then that's very quickly going to wash out because of where the system is expected to transition through. And then as you can see, that frontal tail already is going to be back down over the south, and that's what's going to prime the environment for what's going to happen next. Right here, this would be considered an open gulf. We have our high here. Open gulf means we just opened the gate for warm air advection to start surging to the north, and I love the fact that you guys can see it. Look at that. That's all warm air advection. Nothing dangerous. That's not going to be severe weather. That's all stratiform precip on the leading edge of our warm front as it comes to the north. And right here, as we finally see boundary impact is what we'll call it, that's where we're going to start getting our severe thunderstorms to really pop off. So it's going to be very interesting to see exactly how this unfolds. Very interesting. If it does get on the stronger side, it could be worse. If it does manage to stay a little weaker, we got that going for us. Yeah, I'm going to show you guys that towards the back end of this. I'm definitely going chasing. I'm going to start in the Panhandle, and then we're going back down towards Central Florida. For East Central Florida on Saturday, that's going to be a good question. Aston, welcome in. Thank you for joining us. Where are these storms coming from? Well, they're coming in from the jet. We have multiple jet streams out there, and they're very aggravated because we have winter trying to come in and say hello to everybody, but we also have our strong El Nino still kicking it over the Pacific that's creating a lot of chaos for the south, and that's kind of why we're seeing this tornado risk, which I think the general public is ignoring. You know, if this were just a bona fide frontal system coming down and the warm sector formed up and we did get a low-level jet, yes, the tornado risk would be there, but the fact that if I were to switch over to our 300 millibar, I think on the GFS is 250, yeah, there you go. That's why we have such a substantial elevated threat for tornadoes, because here's our polar front jet moving to the south, excellent difluent flow in the upper levels. Excellent difluent flow. If you look at these streamlines, very good right front quadrant is what we'll call it, or right side sector of this jet max that's moving in right here. Here's your jet max supporting our low, and then we have our El Nino subtropical jet rushing through that's just going to help with wind shear in the upper levels. So that's why everything is all sorts of, for lack of a better term, pissed off. There's a tornado in Texas. Oh, there we go. It's starting up. And this is our first system too. Let's see if we can pull that up. Let's go satellite radar. There's the first low. Actually, yeah, look at that. Wow. Come to think of it, as the sun's coming up, we already have a really good band of squall-like features down there. Look at that. There you go. Really good thunderstorm activity. And this is what we are trying to warn folks about. I got comments on my TikTok earlier that supposedly even Mike's weather page is getting a lot of hate, a lot of flack for promoting this system and discussing it as much as we are, and it's ridiculous. I don't understand why people get so mad. Like, I remember I got so much hate on my TikTok for mentioning how wonderful the weather is going to be and that I'm excited that there is no bad weather. People got mad. Now we're talking about, hey, we might have some bad weather. People got mad. It's like if I breathe in one direction, you get pissed. If I decide to inhale from the other direction, you get pissed. I don't understand it. But anyways, that looks pretty good. Let's go to our clean long wave IR, and oh yeah, look at that. This is what I'm talking about. This is actually an excellent representation of what we'll need to watch out for times possibly 2, if not 3. This is probably where we are having our tornado threat right now. So if I were to guess, as a matter of fact, right there, that looks like that could be a tornadic storm. Just looking at satellite, it looks like it's a bit of a left mover. Let's try to zoom in on that on our radar and see if we can find it. Let's see if I'm right. If I'm not, then I'll quit the live stream. I'm just kidding. But anyways, let's see. Where are we at? Active warnings. There is no active warning. Uh-oh. Either they're latent or there is no more active warnings for this system. Let me try to change the radar. Where else could we possibly be seeing a tornado right now? There's really nothing else out there besides that main squall feature. Maybe out over here. Active warnings. Nope. There's no tornado-warned storms out there right now. Really good squall line, though. That's for sure. And that's exactly what we'll need to worry about here in Florida. That looks like it's spinning. That definitely right there looks like it's spinning. Let's change over to base velocity and see what that looks like. Oh, yeah, there we go. So lots of good rotation. See, this again, and I don't want to... This is one time where I will kind of wander into fear-mongering, scare tactic territory, but this is what we don't want to see. This is exactly what I was talking about. And for those of you who can't really interpret radar, I'll kind of draw it out for you, but this looks like an ocean wave almost. There's rotation, there's rotation, there's rotation, there's rotation. Not a whole lot of really substantial rotation, but do you guys see these little waves going on? These little bow echoes? Those are all potentially rotating storms. It looks like there's some rotation right in through there too. So lots of rotation in this weaker frontal system. Lots of rotation in this. Put that into perspective. This is our weak sauce wave 1 storm. And look at all that rotation off the coastline. And if you were to extrapolate that forward, just like our models are thinking that could possibly happen, we'll switch back over to satellite imagery. If you extrapolate this forward, that's going right towards the southeast and towards the state of Florida, parts of southern Georgia, and then eventually moving up into the Carolinas as it just continues to expand. Here's our entire comma cloud right through there. This is all of our dry air intrusion, all of our cold air moving past into it, and then here's all of our warm air advection. That's your rotation. That's why you're getting rotation along that leading edge like so. It's mixing in like this. And that's why the frontal tail is more dangerous sometimes than going through the comma head. I know that sounds funny. There's a comma tail and there's a comma head. This is the head up here. I'll go H, and then here's the tail. The tail is a little bit more dangerous for your severe weather action, and you also get a lot of that very, very potent push of air changing and air flow, cold air, and that's why you get such elevated winds down at the surface. But yeah, very good stuff. Very good stuff. And then there's the front that just came through us. That kind of gave us a nice little cold start to the day. You can see all the cloud streets, cloud lines off the coastline. There's a little bit of a stalled periphery of the front that's probably surging to the north, a little bit of an open Gulf sector. Lots of snowfall falling already. You can kind of see it already on the satellite. Right there. That's all snow moving through. Either that or that's fog. I can't really tell. I know definitely that this is snow right here. All that's probably snowfall moving through Oklahoma, Kansas, up towards Iowa, Missouri. That's definitely snow. And that's just wave 1. Let's see if we can see the next system. We should be able to. If I switch over to a larger perspective, let's go global. We'll go this piece right here. And let's go to water vapor, mid-level water vapor. We should be able to see it. Actually, yeah, we can see it. Here we go. There's our trough. So this is the one. That's the one right there. This one's going to work its way through. This one actually seems like it's moving further to the north. Very, very interesting. That low does not look like it's, unless it's suddenly going to bump east, that low does not look like it's going to move anywhere close to where our models are thinking. There it is right there, and it's moving up towards the Midwest. So that's a little alarming. Are our models completely jacked? Are they messed up? Because that does not look like what our models are thinking this is going to do, unless we're going to get a triple point low, and that's what's going to move up to the coast. That's the main event next week. Okay, no, I see what's happening. We are expecting triple point cyclogenesis. And what that means is where our jet lies in relation to our system, this is already a barotropic low forming up. You can see our jet is running right in through here. There's your triple point. So our low cyclogenesis is going to happen down here somewhere. Low cyclogenesis, and that's what's going to eject up this way while this cold pocket rotates up and through and produces a little bit more snowfall as this next one is coming in. And you can see very, very good influx of energy and moisture. That's a really, really aggressive setup that's coming in. And there's our jet max right there that's going to help to induce additional strengthening of our low pressure systems. And then there's our El Nino jet all across the south. Very fun stuff. Very exciting pattern. A very, very exciting pattern. All right, let's get back to business. So here's our severe parameters, and I will admit, this morning waking up and looking at I look at 0Z. You know, just like in the tropical season, I don't trust too much of our 6 and 18, our intermittent runs. I don't really trust those too much. Just because they're continuity runs. They're not actual analysis data. So here is our EHI. EHI looks a little less impressive. Little less impressive than what it has over the last few days. But then again, these are going to ebb and flow. They're going to change back and forth. Extremely good water spout potential. There's probably going to be a tornado outbreak that we just can't see off the Gulf Coast. Probably tons and tons of tornadoes out there that might affect fishermen, shippers, cruises out there. That's very dangerous. But to answer some of you guys who were asking earlier, this is our target. That's our first target. So I'm going to boogaloo out of Polk County and head up, hit the coastline, up and through here, either Apalachicola Bay or up towards Panama City, Tyndall is where I'm thinking I'm going to posture for round 1 of this storm chase. And then the best part about this is 15 Zulu. So this is wonderful. It's going to be the daytime. Hopefully not a lot of morning traffic to deal with. If I drive up there early enough, should miss a lot of the morning traffic. I don't know why people would be out on the roads outside of maybe going to work because, you know, they're not going to shut things down for this storm. But that's where we're going to get started, and that does look like we're going to have a very good shot at seeing some water spouts moving either close to the shoreline or moving on shore potentially, and then it still looks pretty good. The EHI specifically, our Energy Helicity Index, which is a combination of instability and rotation that our thunderstorms could develop, still looking kind of fired up over interior Florida. And this is kind of why I'm a little interested to know why Storm Prediction Center highlighted much of North Carolina, because it looks like once you leave the Gulf Stream, you see all this energy enhancement going on over the Gulf Stream, and then as it continues off the coast, you lose that enhancement. Notice how the EHI bottoms out right there off the coast over the water. North Carolina, I don't really think is going to see much in the way of really, really severe weather. I think that was a little ambitious on Storm Prediction Center's part. Do I think South Carolina could see it? Absolutely. That's where they had the really bad flooding and thunderstorm activity with the one system we chased not too long ago. But still some sporty values over interior Florida. So my Tampa folks, Southwest Florida, even along where we had Idalia kind of roll through, we might have to watch for the occasional rotating storm. And it doesn't always necessarily mean we're going to get tornadoes out of it. That could be a number of other things that come with it. Very strong convective winds, maybe some very, very low-end hail pellets or ice pellets that could fall out of it. Probably some good flooding, because with those rotating storms, you're going to get a very, very dense updraft, which means they're going to have a lot of rain in their core. They could possibly locally flood your area if they pass through. And then even eastern Florida, as you get towards the Space Coast, Melbourne, parts of Brevard and Volusia County, even further up towards Jacksonville, Daytona, you'll need to watch for the potential of those storms rotating through, especially if we have a really crystal clear cut frontal line of thunderstorms. Here is this is why pivotal weather is cooperating. Here's our surface-based lifted index. We don't look at lifted index enough, I feel like. Lifted index is also a very good parameter to notice or to look at to determine the level of instability that you have in your environment. And anything -2 and on, thunderstorms. Just let's leave it at that. If you get into the -4 and beyond, definitely supercell, definitely tornado parameters. And if you look, our lifted index could definitely support it. Right up along the coast, seeing our target area into the -4 value, -5 just off the coast. And then the lifted index does get fairly good right over top interior Florida. And this is at 21Z going towards 0Z. So it's going to be an early morning event for us up here, and then we're going to rapidly try to haul butt back down to Central Florida and see what happens in our neighborhoods for my Central Florida viewers out there. Well, yeah, we'll definitely have to continue to watch for severe weather outbreaks. This is going to be one of them for sure. But yeah, February for Florida is going to be even more enhanced depending on what our El Nino does. Oh, there's bad drivers everywhere. There's bad driver. Yesterday we had a power outage here because of a bad driver right in our own backyard. So, I mean, there's no avoiding the bad drivers, sadly. But definitely a lot to monitor over the next couple of days. And then down here, this is going to be our supercell composite. You see, supercell composite doesn't look too Oh, wait, whoops, we're way too far out of time. Supercell Composite doesn't look too impressive with this first system. I mean, honestly, you could argue that maybe there's a shot at seeing something spin off the west coast of Florida. Dang it, pivotal weather, stop doing that. But then look at how our supercell parameters go up pretty dramatically right there. There you go. See, once again, that little geographical spot in the panhandle that's jutting out is where I think I'm going to bullseye and head up there. Good supercell parameters coming in on that squall line, and then that's the part where it gets a little dodgy. I don't know why the model loses it as it heads towards Tampa St. Pete. But again, we get a little bit of, this is obviously a lower res model, so we're going to lose a little bit of the resolution here. The grid boxes are much larger, so this is going to be a little bit more scattered, more washed out, or blurred together. And then as you can see, even into South Carolina, we get a good shot at seeing some potential supercellular action. And then North Carolina is kind of unscathed. Like I said, I think it was a little ambitious on SPC Spark to go that far inland. I get what they're doing. It's CYA. They're covering their bases, but I do think we can probably breathe a sigh of relief as you get further and further into North Carolina. Let's see. What else do we have pulled up here? I know I had more stuff to go over. We'll talk snow for a little bit. We'll go ahead and open up that can of worms and look at the snowfall, since that's what everyone's... Oh, here we go. That's what I wanted to look at. Let's go look at quantitative precip, because precip's going to be a big issue with this system as well, and not enough people are broadcasting that. This is for the first one. This is right now, and we're already approaching the 2 to 3 inch threshold for a lot of the coastal areas. Good news, if you look further inland over the Gulf Coast southeast, very good rain amounts, at least a nice little peppering of rainfall to help with the drought conditions that are still ongoing. If you fast forward, though, look at that. That's definitely going to be coastal flooding, definitely possible inland flooding depending on how heavy this rainfall is because of the drought. Because the ground is not going to be ready to take on that much water at once, we're going to see some flooding. Day 5, same story. Look at all this rainfall. See, rainfall, not snowfall, rainfall right up the eastern seaboard. We got a lot of values approaching that 6 to 7 inch threshold, so possibly more than half a foot of rain, especially in your areas where you see your more aggressive thunderstorm activity, and then it finally washes through. That's one positive that we have for this setup down here in the southeast, is because we have so much of that air flowing and a lot of the winds blowing this stuff through. It's going to be a fast event. It's not going to be a long duration, sitting on top of you, raining out. Where that system tracks, though, however, you can see our comma... Just heard the window clatter. Where you can see that comma feature right in through here, that's where a lot of the rain is going to be over top of you. But the further south you go and you get into that frontal appendage, that frontal ligament is what we'll call it, it's going to be very fast moving. That thing's going to blow through you. And that's another reason why I think winds and rotating storms are going to be an issue, because where there's fast moving stuff, you have a lot more of that potential to get some spin going in there. I urge you, next time it gets hot around here, go into your swimming pool or go into a swimming pool and do this in the water, right along the surface of the water. If you go slowly, you'll see, the water rushes back behind it and fills in the gap, and you might get a whirlpool or two. But if you whirlpool or two, not whirlpool or tool, if you go fast, though, notice how you get a bigger splash. You get a lot more water rushing in behind your arm, and you get a lot more of those little whirlpools kicking off like this. Exact same concept with the atmosphere. I'm not even joking. If you go into a pool or a hot tub anytime soon, remember that. Give it a try. Go swish into the water like that right along the surface and watch behind your arm how many little spins and little whirlpools occur at the surface, and then fill in rapidly. Exact same concept. I kid you not. Shout out from Northern Pickens County, South Carolina. Ice on the roadway tonight. 21 this AM, just hit 32. Wow, it's very cold up there. SPC, National Weather Service, probably seeing something that we in the models are not seeing. It's possible, but I don't know. I think, and kind of going off of what Mark just said, see how cold it is up there? Unless we get really substantial warm air advection, a lot of that cold air is going to stay down at the ground level. And if it stays down at the ground level and it's warmer aloft as that warm sector moves through, we're not going to see a lot of bad thunderstorms, because we're going to be capped, is what it's called, inverted. If the temperature profile was like this, warmer at the surface, cold above it, and as that air mass or that transition, cold air sinking, warm air rising begins, there's your instability right there. Boom. If you have this kind of a temperature profile where you're inverted, the cold air is at the surface, warm air is aloft, it's just going to keep going, and that cold air is going to stay at the surface. So where you can get that condensation, those air parcels that move up, form clouds, and keep rising and form updrafts, they're not going to go anywhere. They may come up, but then they're going to bounce back down to the ground. Would Tampa area get the storm Tuesday afternoon most likely, or is this going to be no, thankfully, Maya, it's going to be a daytime event, and all of our models are in very, very good agreement. I think I saw you comment on TikTok, as a matter of fact. I put up a 4-panel overview of what's expected to happen in the southeast, and I'm very, very glad that even though, during the day we're going to have to work on how much surface heating we get, the only benefit to it being a night event is the sun's down, we're cooling, so the atmosphere is going to want to relax. It's not going to be as amped up, whereas now during the daytime, and this front's going to be moving through at max heating of the day, so that kind of goes against us in terms of how much instability at the surface we can get. But thankfully, all of our models are singing the same tune right there. There you go. This is the system moving through Florida as the sun sets. So for Tampa, you will still be able to see stuff on the horizon. The sun sets around 5:30, sometimes as late as 6 nowadays. You'll still be able to see stuff coming. And then if you look at this is 6Z. That front's already through us. There's the frontal boundary right there. The front's already moved on. We still could see some lingering shower activity. This model is also showing where the moisture is, not necessarily just the rainfall. So the front's going to move fast, and that is a lot of ground for it to cover in 6 hours from one end of the peninsula to the other. I mean, it usually takes about 2 hours for you to drive at about 80 miles an hour, give or take, on the freeway to get from Tampa over to, we'll say, Melbourne. So if you think about it in terms of weather, that front is moving fast. So we'll have to watch exactly the progression of it. We can extrapolate it forward once the main event begins. But it's going to be a very fast system. It looks like by the time we get up into the Panhandle, this is 12Z in the morning, this is 7 a.m., by around the lunch hour, just shortly after lunch, is where my target area in Apalachicola is going to be slammed. And then right about then, depending on what shakes out, we're going to start trying to street race as best as we can back to Central Florida, because we have until sunset to catch the rest of it right there. That's a good little reference point to give you as well. Within one panel, we're going from this area of Florida to this area of Florida. So that's going to cover a lot of ground in 6 hours. Yeah, night storms, they suck. When I was out storm chasing that last system that really didn't do anything in terms of tornadoes, we had some rotating potential water spouts, if not funnels, well off the shore. My biggest gripe was driving at night. I did not enjoy it. There was still traffic out there for some reason. I saw at least half a dozen accidents, cars overturned, folks spinning out. I remember there was one point I was live on Instagram, and I feel bad for admitting this, but I started cussing because I see a light in front of me, and it turns out there was a Lexus that had spun out and was facing the oncoming traffic on, I think it was Interstate 95 or 75. They had actually spun out and hit the side of the freeway system right up against where those concrete barriers separate you from the median, and then the southbound side. I was on the northbound side, and a Lexus had spun out, hydroplaned, and was literally facing oncoming traffic. So I'm sitting there like, the hell is this coming towards me? And it was a car flipped backwards. And on live, I noticed that there were a lot of emergency crews out there because I saw an overturned vehicle or two in the median that had just rolled off the street. There were people stopped. And that's another thing, too. I have people on social media mentioning, stop scaring everybody. Yeah, but it's you guys that are out there causing the accidents. It's because you don't care and you're not worried that you're going out and driving and getting into accidents with people. And that's honestly, weather aside, we don't hear that enough from meteorologists, but just when we say stay inside, we mean just stay out of everyone's way. Because, there's some people out there who I've noticed here in Poinciana, Kissimmee, they drive faster when it's raining. And then what becomes an issue is you have the folks who are slamming on their gas when it's raining, and then you have the other half of the people who are terrified of even a drizzle, so they go 20 miles an hour under the speed limit, and that's when your accidents really start to ramp up. And I'm not even joking. As I was moving into the Tampa-St. Pete area to set up for the tail end of the storm chase, there was not a moment in time where I really did not hear emergency services and emergency sirens, fire trucks, ambulances, because of all the accidents that were occurring. And we really didn't see a whole lot of it. We saw some 40-plus mile-an-hour winds and a lot of rain. That was it. And there were still a ton of accidents. That's another thing, too. Mac Alert, excellent point. I was guilty of that many years ago. Kept ignoring low tire pressure on my dashboard because I figured it was a slow leak. It'll be okay. And the next thing you know, the inner sidewall of the tire just shredded on me. So that was bad. Luckily, I didn't veer off the road. I kept it under control, but yeah. So we're getting close to closing time, at least for this update. We'll go live again tonight like we typically do around 8 p.m. for our Friday Night Live like we usually do, especially during tropical season. As of right now, key takeaway, it does seem like our snow chances are somewhat trying to drop a little bit. I'm not going to say that we're not going to see blizzard conditions, winter storm conditions up to the north, but it does seem like our snowfall is trying to come down a little. There's our first system right there, and if you notice, big difference, very big difference. And I'm talking like a night and day difference. We're still looking at maybe a very, very small section of a foot of snow in extreme northeastern Pennsylvania and then southern New York State. But if I go back in time, guys, check this out. Watch. We'll go to 12Z yesterday on the Euro. Look at how much more, see that? Look at how much more snow we were thinking. And if I go another 24 hours back in time, take this through, even more snow, a lot more snow. So the models are very back and forth still. We'll just have to continue to monitor exactly what happens, and that's why here on my channel and on my social media, I'm putting a lot more emphasis down here first, because we'll have at least an extra day or so before the snow event and the blizzard event, maybe freezing rain event begins to kick off. So we'll have to do battle with severe weather and flooding down in this neck of the woods, and then it'll segue itself up towards the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and the Northeast. So I like to go in chronological order. I'm not going to go way up there and then come back down, you know? People have to slow down when it rains. Yeah, not to the extent that I see them. Like, I'm not going to lie. I don't really slow down because I'm comfortable driving in the rain. I do go the speed limit. I'm not here doing 90 and a 40. But what gets me upset, like on an interstate, is when it starts to rain, and instead of just going down maybe 10, 15 miles an hour, you have people doing 20, 30 miles per hour, and then you have other people still trying to do 90. That's where it gets bad. That's where it gets rough. So yes, do I agree people should slow down when it rains? 100%, guys. I'm not condoning reckless driving or dangerous driving, but where it gets dangerous are the folks who end up overreacting and panicking and slamming on their brakes. I had that happen a number of times too while I was out chasing. There were people in front of me. I'd leave at least 5 car lengths between them, and the next thing you know, it's like they're ripping the e-brake and they're coming towards me because they're slamming on their brakes for some reason. Oh, I believe it. New York City is just as bad. Same with California. They're very, very aggressive. Very aggressive. Although Californians seem like they know a little bit more of what they're doing. But yeah, snowfall is kind of starting to dwindle, especially with that second system. The second system looks like we're going to get maybe half a foot over the plains, and then a little bit more so in Michigan with that lake effect and wraparound. And then it looks like there's another one. You see that? There's another system sneaking in the pattern, and we're going to have to start talking about that as well. I'll go back to the North or United States AOI. There's 1, there's 2, and then there's 3. It actually looks like, it actually looks like the Euro is trying to bring back that severe weather threat for us down in the southeast, right there. It looks like on the latest run of the Euro, I haven't looked this far into the future just yet, but here's another system, occluded front, triple point, cold front, warm front. Here's another one, looks like moving through the 4 corners, 989 low, front attached to it, a good punch of cold air. Another system potentially moving through. Yeah, there you go. So it looks like, it's going to be very busy. It's going to be very busy. We're going to be working overtime, that's for sure. It doesn't look like this is going to be the only round. I've been seeing people mentioning twin storms, and it's like more like quadruple storms. There's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. We got cheaper by the dozen going on in the weather pattern right now. And, before we end the stream, because I got to get ready to clock in, I'm telling you guys, and I don't want to sound morbid or a little more like dark. This really has me wondering what the rest of the year is going to look like. It really does. Because it would be a very interesting and very destructive season or calendar year if we do have a hellacious El Nino winter like what's shaping up right now. And then we flip the script and go La Nina or neutral, and then we have a destructive hurricane season. You know what? Why not? If you guys want to stick around, stick around. Let's go ahead and see if we have any new update. Oh, there it is. All right, we're going to end the stream talking tropics. We're going into a tropics talk real quick. We got about like 5 minutes before I got to log out. We got our January data. So here we go. January data is in. If you guys, for those of you who don't care to talk tropics right now, you can definitely go ahead and tune out. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Thank you very much for tuning in. But we're going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes just looking at the tropics real quick. I live just off the 41, and it's absolutely atrocious, the amount of accidents during rain or even no rain at all. Yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. But, you know, Floridians, I don't know what it is, but like I had mentioned, for those of you who weren't with us yesterday, I wanted to do a video as opposed to a live stream, but we actually had an accident right outside the neighborhood here. Someone crashed into an electric pole and knocked it completely over, so we were without power for about 8 hours. I had to miss work and everything because I'm a remote employee for Advent Health, and I couldn't work because the power was out, internet was out, and it even dorked up the internet connection afterwards. All right, here we go. So this is it. Let's take a look. This is our 0Z January 2024 information, and it's going to be the whole year, which is excellent. We'll be able to go all the way through to December. So let's see. Are we still thinking neutral? Oh, look at that. It looks like... Never mind. Yep, there it is. So it looks like we might have El Nino hanging around a little bit longer. We'll be getting towards a warm neutral by March, and then April, cooling, May, and then June. There it is. By now, we've already lost our wind shear. Let me just put it to you guys that way. These cold anomalies, even though they're small, right about there is where El Nino would turn off. Right there would be, I would consider that a neutral pattern already. This right here is already like a moderate to weak El Nino. This is going in towards a warm neutral, weak El Nino, warm neutral Enzo, and then right there we're at neutral. And then from there, as we get into the heart of hurricane season, very, very robust neutral pattern. And dang, that's scary. Let's go over to the Atlantic, and I'm noticing something very, very concerning. That's not good. Dear God, that's not good. That is not good for the... Woo! I'm going to embrace my inner Ric Flair. So this is approaching 2.5 degrees above average. This is a small channel of approaching 2.5 to 3 degrees, Charlie, above normal. Woo! Woo, woo, woo. That's definitely something new. The models are not... Oh, that's... Yeah. This is right... You know, oh, wow, actually... That's really not good. That's not good at all. I'm thinking about it. And if you guys remember, Maya, I know you're new to tuning in. Thank you very much for joining us. But a number of live streams ago, we actually looked at some scientific research papers that have come out discussing what the Enzo oscillations do to our steering currents and where we typically see tropical cyclone formation and the synoptic scale pattern that will drive these storms. And actually, I'm getting a little, right now because... Our climate, we're going to need to watch this like a hawk. I'm going to be watching this like I already have been month to month, week to week, and really scrutinizing this. Because if you guys remember the paper we looked at, our hottest temperatures are forecast to be in the central to eastern tropical Atlantic and in the southern Caribbean. And if you guys remember, this is where, when we have a neutral pattern out here, this is where we see a lot of our cyclones form. In fact, to heck with it, since Maya's new here, I'll go ahead and pull it up. I have it saved here. Remember this chart in your head. Let me go ahead and scroll down a little bit. We'll go scroll way down, scroll way down. This is a wonderful piece of information right here, by the way. Let's see, it's right, here we go. Right here, no, this is it, right here. Number of formations during a neutral year, and take a look at that. Where our warmest waters are progged to be, that's where our hot spot is. Oh, that's kind of alarming. I kind of want to make a video on this by itself because that's very concerning. That means Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, Cayman Islands are going to be under like the front lines, essentially, the beaches of Normandy, for lack of a better term, for these systems when they brew up. And then obviously the southeastern United States is really going to have to watch those things like a hawk, because if I scroll up just a little bit, there's just a little bit more. There you go. These are La Nina circulations, and then these are neutral circulations. And if you look, our hottest areas forecasted right now. And, right now, let me backpedal a little bit. It's only January. Let's not go punching the accelerator or anything like that. Let me cool my jets. But still, if you look at this, neutral years just like 2004 are synonymous with systems pummeling the Lesser and Greater Antilles and in the Bahamas, as well as the Southeast United States. So we're definitely going to have to keep a close eye on this, a very, very close eye on that. I don't like that trend. And then last but not least, let me go back here and let's see what our models are thinking. Oh my God. And in September, it's thinking it's going to be even hotter. It could still be an active hurricane season into November and maybe even December. Look at this. In September, we're above 2 degrees with a very small area approaching 3 degrees in the Eastern Caribbean. What does our moisture look like? Oh, nope. No, I'm not messing around. I'm not messing around this hurricane season. I'll be going live like 10 times a day. That right there is how we're going to end the live stream. That's wild. That is definitely, that's a different tune as well. Something changed in our models. Because this was our December model data for August, and now look at January's model data. That is not good. That is showing strong high pressure out here and systems just blasting in. Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting 2024. Gosh darn it. That's how I'll put it. Gosh darn it. So that is a cliffhanger. But you know what? We'll always be back to talk more about this and kind of revisit our model data. I would not be surprised if you see other meteorological sources pumping these numbers out and pumping these updates out, because that definitely doesn't look promising. That definitely looks very, very concerning. Let's start turning on my work computer. Let me go a little further on. Let's see. So that's August, September, October, November, we could still be seeing some systems out there. And wow, December is showing an MDR, an active MDR, and an active Caribbean. That's when the tropics get started. We could see an early start to hurricane season. There's July, guys. This is our July model. There's June, there's July, and then there's August. So we'll definitely have to pay a little closer attention to this. I don't like those trends, though. I don't like it at all. Big, potentially, I'll say, possibly, maybe, big difference in comparison to what we saw this past hurricane season. I'm going to demand a NOAA radio for my birthday next month. Oh, snap, gotta run. Take care. Metallica, have a good rest of your day. We'll probably see, hopefully we'll see you tonight for our 8 p.m. I gasp in real life. Wow, Superchars, yeah. This is extremely interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting to see. I don't like the way August is looking. August definitely looks very concerning. We could possibly see some really bad landfalls along the Gulf Coast, if not Florida. And our folks in the Caribbean are really going to have their eyes open as we get closer to April and May. And honestly, just based on what all of our climatology models and everybody out there has been advertising, what these models are showing, you'd be very, very ridiculous to not have some kind of small-scale plan in place by the time we hit April and May. I'm just saying it. I'm saying it right now. Good old Dennis Phillips likes to get sciencey about this. I've looked at a few of Dennis Phillips' stuff. He's very good at explaining a lot of the climatological models. This is my first time really digging into the nitty-gritty with this stuff for sure, but I can see as I do more homework in the background, it's definitely making a lot more sense to me. The Nino does matter, but I don't think that we're going to see it hold on. It's still in such a strong El Nino right now that and we've already started to see it weakening, that I do think that at least by the heart of hurricane season, by peak hurricane season, we're going to have our eyes and our ears and our binoculars on, open wide, because I do think that's going to be a very, very rough hurricane season. Let me go back to January of last year. Let's see how well this verified. Let's do a little bit of initialization on this. So, oh yeah, look at that. look at the night and day difference. So what we're looking at right now, guys, just to give you a frame of reference, it's 0Z on January, but this is the CANSIPs for this past year. Before I lose you guys, this is the CANSIPs for the last year, and if you notice, night and day difference. This is August 2023, folks. September 2023. October 2023, and it verified really well. If you look, active MDR and then fish storms, it verified extremely well, very well. And then if you fast forward, and I'll do the comparison right here, there's August 2023, here's August 2024. Spot the difference. This is not a blink and you miss it. This is definitely not a blink and you'll miss it. That is a night and day difference. August 2023, August 2024. Massive. Literally taking the pattern and doing this, turning it entirely upside down. That is very concerning. Alrighty, folks, it is 10:30. I got to go ahead and quit the live stream and get clocked in before I run late. We will definitely be seeing you again at 8 p.m. tonight. We're going to do our Friday Night Live. That's our traditional live stream. This morning was to make up for yesterday, and I'm very thankful we are not running into the latency issues or the lag issues that we witnessed yesterday. Thank you very much for tuning in this morning, guys. Thank you for taking some time out of your Friday morning to join me and talk not only our significant weather over the United States, but take a quick glance at what could possibly be a very intense hurricane season. Shoot, I almost want to print this out and show like 2023, 2024, apples to oranges. Can someone dump a bunch of ice in the water? Shoot, I wish it worked like that. With as hot as the water could possibly be, probably won't make much of a difference. So, yeah, definitely lots to explore this year. I think 2024 is going to be very, very interesting for everybody. Not only with the winters on either end, but also with the summertime. I think we're going to have a return of our severe weather here in Florida once we switch El Nino off and we get the sea breeze back in action. We're going to see lots of spring thunderstorms. We're going to see lots of hurricanes out there. ST Gray, what's your question? Go ahead and pop your question in the chat while I log in the background. I'm not going anywhere just yet. But yes, a big difference. Big difference. I see your comment, Sharon. Or no, April. I see your comment, April. Everyone get your fans. Yeah, right? Twilight Firefly, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for joining today. We'll see you later tonight, that's for sure. But ST Gray 852, ask your question, and I'm going to end the live stream while I'm clocking in over here. Oh, man, I was hoping that I didn't have to log in here. Still waiting for your question, and if not, we're going to kill the... Oh, there we go. Do you think Isaac could hit some South Florida this year? You know, that... I'm not going to get that into the weeds with predicting actual landfalls, but it's definitely going to be a sporty hurricane season. Just based on the fact by itself that we're wandering out of an El Nino into a possible neutral Enzo phase. That in of itself is going to open up areas that were previously untapped for tropical systems. Oh yeah, he does. He does. What the error? What? Why is there a system error? Come on. Man, this thing's going to make me run late because it's opening slowly. Alrighty, folks. Well, I'm getting ready to clock in. We're going to go and end the live stream. Thank you very much for tuning in, folks. We will see you again later tonight at 8 p.m. You'll probably see the notification that I've scheduled the live stream later on this afternoon, maybe closer to my lunchtime. And we'll go into the afternoon model data and talk a little bit more about that and see exactly what's going to have happening not only for the Southeast with this current system, but then with the next one coming in, because we can look at some more high-res data to determine what the rest of the Gulf Coast and Florida is going to see tonight and into tomorrow. Dave should wear a chicken suit if that does not happen. If no storm hits Florida, then chicken suit. There we go. All right. I actually would take that bet. If not a single storm, tropical depression, tropical storm, hurricane does not hit Florida, then yeah, chicken suit. I'll wear a chicken suit. Not even joking. But all right, folks, we'll see you later on tonight. Thank you for watching. Until later this evening, this is Weather Center Nazario signing out.